Orion says, can pure doctrine survive without the historic liturgy supporting it? Well, that's a fascinating way to ask the question. I would say yes, it has to. It must. Otherwise, it wouldn't be pure doctrine. The liturgy, glorious as the historic reception of pure doctrine by more than one person, right? So the value of it particularly is that it is the communal response built over ages. Like we can't really, it would take us 2,000 years to do it again just as well, right? That reality is there, but that reality is not the actual delivered once for all testimony scriptures as God delivered it, right? That comes in the preaching and teaching of the apostles written down in Scripture. So yes, pure doctrine can survive without the historic liturgy supporting it. However, it would only survive with something an awful lot like the historic liturgy supporting it, right? Like there are certain things you're not going to get rid of. You're not going to have the backbone of the historic liturgy in hearing the scriptures read, hearing the scriptures taught, receiving the Lord's Supper, no, pure doctrine cannot survive without that because that is the pure doctrine confessed in Scripture, taught in Scripture. Like you can't have it without that because that is what it is. Yeah. But then when you get into other things, the seasons, for example, the way we've got the seasons laid out, which I would never change, but don't take this as advocacy for change. But although I think we could prune them a little better, and that's a different topic. But we could survive without that. Pure doctrine could survive without that. We'd come up with something else that would be like it, that would in some way teach the centrality of Jesus' life and the life of the church in exile and the return of Jesus at the end of the world. Like somehow we'd have something like that. But it's not of the, oh, here we go. You want some, okay. So I want words in English that are English words. But if you think that means I don't want to teach you the other words, you're nuts. I want to go harder. I want to go harder and deeper on the other words. I don't want to go back to the old English trick. I want to go to the Latin, man. I want to go to the German, the Latin, and the Greek. So when the Germans were talking about this question, Ryan, and how the connection point is between something that's good and something that's necessary, they would talk about something that's of the bene esse and something that's of the esse. Latin again, esse. You can hear our word essence. Is the liturgy as we have it, verbatim, essential to Christianity? Or is it bene esse, benediction, good word, right? Bueno, Spanish, bene. Bene, good, for the good of esse, the essence. Is it for the good of the essential of the church? That's a valuable distinction. Because when it is for the good of the essential things of the church, it is not essential. And so that's when we can make it an idol. If we're not careful. When you start calling the good of the essential, now you're a Pharisee. Like literally, that's exactly how it happened. Oh, that's the law? Well, let's make some more laws to make sure we never have to think about that law in a spiritual sense, right? Let's just make these other laws so we know we're fine as long as we don't do the other stuff, right? So that's where this question is a little dangerous. But that doesn't mean that the wise course of action is therefore to try. Well, since I can have the church survive without the historic liturgy, I should. Like that is not a reasonable move, right? There is no logic in that decision. Since I could survive falling off a building from 3 stories, get up and walk away, I should give it a chance. Let's try it out, right? Like that doesn't, there's no reason in this. There's no logic in this.